Welcome back to Drunk Storytime with Quefish. I finished my first cup. I'm now starting my second of Bloodbath, which is red wine, Chambord, and 7-Up. It's one of those things that didn't sound good, but it is. So, this is the Not Safe for Work offering following the Good Omens lockdown video offered up by Neil Gaiman and Michael Tennant, David Shane. And, you know, the entire crew. So, this is Slithering Over by GayDemonicDisaster, Kirsty. Summary. Within about a minute of the official Good Omens lockdown video Neil gave us today with Michael Sheen and David Tennant, see, she knows what their names are, on the 30th anniversary of the publication of the book, I had begun bashing out a safe for work fluff fic following the phone call. Safe for work fluff fic following the phone call? Which I actually just did, and you can find it. Well, here's the not safe for work version. Still involves cake. Enjoy. Here, be smart. If you've been on another planet today, here's the video for setup. And she has linked the video, which I probably will too. Crowley put the phone down and stared at it as if it had insulted him personally. Breaking the rules? Honestly, since when had Aziraphale cared about breaking the rules? He'd been trying to tempt Crowley into going out and creating chaos just a few minutes ago. Blasted hypocrite angel. He made an executive decision. He picked up the receiver again and hit speed dial. The phone jangled in the workshop, startling Aziraphale as he sliced another piece of chocolate cake. Oh my god, I want cake now. He hurried to pick it up again. Hello? Incoming, was all he heard from Crowley, before there was a loud buzz of static on the line. Then a mass of particles poured from the receiver and coalesced into the shape of a tall, lanky demon clutching a crate of wine. Hi, he drawled with a grin, and presented the crate to the dumbfounded angel before sauntering over to the table to cast an eye over the impressive spread of confectionery and pastries. Looks delicious, Angel, Crowley commented, turning to the discomfited Aziraphale with a lazy smile. The cakes don't look bad either. Crowley, what the devil are you up to? I told you, it's against the rules. Since when did that stop you doing anything, Aziraphale? Not 10 minutes ago you were trying to get me to go outside and use my demonic wiles on people. Consider this your opportunity to thwart me. Instead, you've got me trapped safely inside your bookshop, locked up away from all the innocent humans, so I can waste my demonic wiles on you instead. Aziraphale raised an eyebrow at that. Waste them, dear boy? Crowley looked mildly surprised. So, they wouldn't necessarily be wasted then? But that rather depends. On? We'll see. Do take a seat, Crowley, and help yourself to some cake while I uncork one of these to let it breathe a little. Crowley shrugged and folded himself into a pile on the sofa, sprawling out comfortably and surveying the table of delicacies with interest. He selected a slice of Angel's food cake, his favorite, and tucked in with relish. Relish goes on hot dogs. Aziraphale opened the wine and set it aside before taking up his plate of chocolate cake again and digging in with an ecstatic little moan of pleasure. Oh. Crowley paused, mid-mouthful, to watch carefully from behind the relative anonymity of his shades. He swallowed slowly, then continued to stare at each forkful as it was conveyed carefully to those perfect pink lips to be savored with happy little wiggles and decadent groans. He shifted uncomfortably in his seat and held his own plate carefully over his lap to conceal any incriminating evidence. Aziraphale noticed Crowley had stopped eating. "Is it quite all right, dear?" "The cake, Crowley, is it up to scratch?" "Isn't scratch a name for the devil, demons?" Yeah, delicious, Angel. Thanks. Would you like to try some of the chocolate cake as well?" Sure." Crowley wondered for a moment at the angel's devious smirk, and then his eyes widened behind his shades as Aziraphale stood and stepped over to take a seat next to him on the sofa, still holding his own plate with half a slice of chocolate cake on it. He speared a forkful, then held it up toward Crowley expectantly with a little smile. Crowley hadn't been expecting this, and wasn't sure how to react. But he opened his mouth obediently and accepted the morsel. He chewed thoughtfully as Aziraphale watched the demon's lips in rapt fascination. Crowley felt a little hot under the collar all of a sudden, and the plate in his lap suddenly felt somewhat too small to do the job being asked of it. Little dessert plate. "I'm sorry, you are just not doing the job." "Good?" Aziraphale asked quietly. Crowley nodded. A swallow. "Very good." Aziraphale took another forkful himself and closed his eyes in bliss. Crowley watched him just as intently. The angel opened his eyes and noticed Crowley's mouth was hanging open. So he hastily picked up another forkful and held it up. Crowley blinked, then realized and accepted the second mouthful. Aziraphale considered him for a moment. Oh, pardon me, let me just stick something in there. "Oh, that was careless of me. You have a little bit of chocolate." He raised a hand to Crowley's face and swiped an errant smudge of frosting from the corner of his lip with his thumb. Crowley froze, then gently took hold of the angel's wrist, stilling it. Not taking his gaze from Aziraphale's face, he brought it to his lips and licked the chocolate off it slowly. It was Aziraphale's turn to freeze, open-mouthed, eyes wide. "Oh," he breathed out softly. Crowley smiled and relinquished the now clean thumb, then licked his lips. He let go of Aziraphale's wrist, then reached out to dip a finger in the chocolate sauce, then swiped a smear of it on Aziraphale's lower lip. "Damn. You appear to have a little on you as well, Angel," he murmured with a seductive smile. Aziraphale set his plate aside carefully, after dumping it all over himself. "I do? Would you be so kind?" He leaned forward ever so slightly and closed his eyes. Crowley set his own plate aside, removed his shades, and leaned in, bringing his hand up to Aziraphale's cheek, then brought his face a breath from the angel's, darted out his tongue, and licked the chocolate from his lip, before diving in for a slow kiss. Aziraphale's lips parted hungrily for him, accepting his questing tongue with a satisfied little moan. His arms came up to wrap around the demon's slim frame and pulled him closer, losing himself in the moment. Crowley felt himself pulled forward on top of Aziraphale as the angel's strong arms yanked him closer, and he fell back on the sofa. "I love strong Aziraphale." Aziraphale paused, eyes wide as Crowley's lean body pressed against his more fully. The demon broke off and gazed into his eyes. Everything okay, Aziraphale? It's not too much, is it? Aziraphale shook his head hurriedly. Oh, not at all, darling. I just couldn't help but notice. His gaze slid downward to indicate the rather insistent hardness in Crowley's tight jeans, which was now pressing against his own soft hip. Crowley bit his lip and tried to stifle a smile. It's what you do to me, Angel. Is this okay? By way of response, Aziraphale grabbed the demon's red hair in one strong hand, pulled his face forwards again and into a crushingly passionate kiss, and ground his own hips up at Crowley's, sliding his other hand around to grab at the demon's perfectly tight buttocks as he did so. Perfectly tight. Crowley ground his hips a little more back in response, shifted a little more centrally, and felt the angel's answering hardness in his trousers. He couldn't help but grin. Being very thorough with your tempting me to thwart me out of doing evil out there, you know, Angel, he whispered against his lips. Yes, well, I think a thorough thwarting was long overdue, don't you? Absolutely. I've definitely been a bad demon. Deserve a good thwarting. Maybe even a bit of smiting, perhaps? Aziraphale spanked at Crowley's tight ass, making him yelp. Oh, yes, definitely some smiting, Aziraphale said with a smirk. Crowley didn't think he'd ever seen such a devious grin on the angel's exquisite countenance before. He snapped his fingers and dispensed with clothing altogether, landing the angel with a sudden lapful of naked demon. Go on then. Get to smiting, Angel. He winked up at him and wiggled his ass provocatively. Aziraphale responded with a series of firm spanks, interspersed with playful kisses. He lingered on the last kiss, his hand spread across Crowley's lean buttocks, then sliding toward his crease, and a finger explored gently as he hummed a questioning against the demon's lips. Crowley answered with a slight nod, not breaking the kiss, and shifted his position slightly to grant better access, but lost his grip and slid off the sofa in the attempt. Whoops! He landed with a startled squeak as Aziraphale giggled at the sight. I think this perhaps might be a bit more comfortable upstairs, don't you? Crowley nodded hurriedly. Aziraphale stood, then allowed his gaze to skim down Crowley's naked form in its entirety at last, eyes widening somewhat once they got past his middle. Crowley blushed slightly, but couldn't help his eyes from wandering to the rather strained shape against the fabric of the angel's trousers as well, then pulled him into another kiss before allowing himself to be led upstairs to a small bedroom in the flat over the bookshop. Aziraphale indicated that Crowley could make himself at home on the bed. Oh, bollocks. It was getting noisy. Aziraphale indicated that Crowley could make himself at home on the bed, before carefully undressing himself as the demon watched, enraptured at the sight of his own personal striptease. He stroked his stiff cock slowly as he watched, serpentine eyes unblinking at the delicious sight in front of him. Aziraphale finally knelt on the bed before him, his own prick jutting out from its nest of pale curls between his legs, thick and dripping already. Crowley sat up, fell forward, and licked at the bead of moisture glistening at the tip greedily before Aziraphale lifted his head gently by the hair and pushed him back on the bed again. That's delightful, but I'd rather do this for you, my dear. Lie back for me, will you? Crowley complied, resting his head and his arms on the pillow and gazing down at the beautiful angel between his legs. Aziraphale looked up. "Would you be a dear and pass me that bottle of lube from the bedside drawer, please?" Crowley's eyebrows raised in mild surprise that the apparently innocent angel should have such a thing readily to hand, but leaned over to open the drawer and retrieve said bottle eagerly before passing it to Aziraphale. The angel squirted a little on his fingers before settling himself down on one elbow between Crowley's legs and bringing his hand up between those lean muscular thighs and pressing forth gently, making the demon hiss out in pleasure. A moment later, the angel's lips wrapped around his aching cock, and Crowley's mind almost imploded at the sensation. Aziraphale's passion for getting his lips wrapped around things he desired apparently now included Crowley, and he was finding that fact rather enjoyable to discover. He fisted his hands in the bedsheets and squirmed as the angel's skillful touch and tongue explored every nerve ending in his nether regions and reduced him to a puddle of whimpering insensibility in moments. Aziraphale was issuing some hasty instructions to his corporation on the fly, including a strict command to his gag reflex to allow him to cope with as much of Crowley's rather remarkable length as possible, and some rather stern messages to his own cock to persuade it to not go off prematurely, before he'd even gotten a chance to get inside his demon. His fingers worked skillfully, twisting and twirling deep inside Crowley's ass, relaxing that tight muscle and drawing fevered shivers from the demon every time he pressed against his prostate. He decided to concentrate as much as possible on sucking Crowley to completion before proceeding with his next step, and lifted up, twirling his tongue around the engorged head of the demon's engorged cock, making him jerk and twitch on the mattress, then brought his other hand up to stroke the rest of his length while his first hand continued to press deep inside him. I feel like I need a diagram, but it might just be because I'm drunk. He decided to... Crowley was shuddering and crying out broken streams of meaningless word fragments, grabbing for Aziraphale's soft hair in his lap and running his fingers through it, occasionally grasping as his hips flinched up off the bed. His hand let go and fluttered frantically against the angel's hair for a moment as every muscle in his body tensed with impending release. Aziraphale swallowed down deeper in response, encouraging Crowley to let go. He came with a deep groan and twitching hips, Aziraphale's name on his lips, then sank back against the duvet, body limp as the angel lifted off his oversensitive cock with a devious final slurp at the tip, making him flinch, then withdrew his fingers and lined himself up, his own cockhead just brushing at Crowley's slick hole as he brought his body up over his lover and kissed him. "Is this all right, love?" Aziraphale murmured against Crowley's cheek. The demon nodded. "Please, angel, please." He widened his legs a little, and angled his hips up. Aziraphale pressed forward slowly, breaching him sweetly with a gradual stretch, wrenching a beautifully tortured moan from Crowley's trembling lips as his hands clawed urgently at the angel's back, begging him to go deeper. Aziraphale rocked his hips deeper, paused for a moment to allow Crowley to adjust to his size, then began rolling his hips gently against the demon's slim pelvis, drawing it out slowly as Crowley wrapped his legs around him and threw his head back, exposing his long, elegant throat, just begging to be kissed, licked, and nipped. Aziraphale bent his head to do so and began to thrust a little more firmly. The sensations of Aziraphale's cock buried deep inside him, dragging beautifully over his prostate, combined with the soft friction of his own spent prick squashed between their hot bodies as they moved together, soon had Crowley hardening again. Aziraphale was kissing his face feverishly as he ground down onto him, breathing hard and coordination faltering as his orgasm drew closer. He gripped Crowley tight, grunting into his shoulder, every muscle taut as he spurted deep inside his lover, then kissed him again, messy, wet, and perfect. "Oh, Crowley," Aziraphale gasped between kisses. "You are so utterly perfect, my love." He withdrew slowly, then took in the sight of Crowley's renewed erection. "Would you like more, darling?" Crowley gazed up at him, recollecting his senses, then licked his lips and grinned. "I'd rather like to return the favor if you're amenable, Angel." Aziraphale kissed him again, then climbed off of him and spun around on all fours, wriggling his plump buttocks teasingly at Crowley, who wasted no time in surging up to gently bite at one inviting gluteal, then grabbed the bottle of lube for his own fingers, and drew a finger up in a teasing line from Aziraphale's balls, perineum to his ass, then with a tender kiss to Aziraphale's back, he pushed forward. The angel cried out sweetly, and Crowley moved to his side, one hand still working him gently open while he kissed his lover, nipping at his lip, then exploring his mouth with his tongue once more. Aziraphale whimpered and made such endearing noises as Crowley's nimble fingers teased him deeper. Aziraphale freed his lips from the demons. "Crowley, please." Crowley kissed him once more on the forehead, then maneuvered himself behind the angel, caressed the swell of his ass reverently, then pushed forward. He gasped at the tightness surrounding him and hesitated, afraid he'd simply explode immediately if he didn't restrain himself. He took a deep, steadying breath, bit his lip, and sank deeper with a hiss of contentment until he was fully sheathed, and Aziraphale was quivering in his hands. "Oh, Angel," he whispered. Aziraphale, impatient, began to rock his hips back onto Crowley, making the demon's breath hitch as he grabbed desperately at the angel's hips. "Fuck, Angel, you can't just do that," he gasped out, eyes rolling back in his head. Aziraphale chuckled. "You started it." Crowley slapped at his backside playfully. "Oi!" He gritted his teeth and thrust his hips experimentally, jaw-dropping at the amazing sensations, and let his upper body fall onto Aziraphale's back, drawing his teeth across his skin at his shoulder and biting gently, then rocked deeper, lean muscles rippling under his skin, strong hands gripping soft hips. He reached under Aziraphale's body to stroke him in turn, yanking the first expletive from the angel. "Shit, Crowley. Don't stop, please, love." Crowley chuckled softly and gave a little twist of his hand at the top, which caused a further litany of curses to spill from the angel's lips. He followed it up with a deeper thrust that Aziraphale virtually sang out at, grasping at the sheets and pushing himself back onto Crowley's cock, matching his movement. It was moments before Aziraphale was coming again over Crowley's hand, and Crowley followed soon after, pulsing his own release into his angel with a silent scream. Crowley stilled and fell forward onto Aziraphale's strong back, and the angel lowered them both to the bed, breathing hard. Crowley hugged him tight from behind and pressed kisses into his hot skin. "You beautiful, beautiful angel." Aziraphale smiled into the pillow and fumbled for Crowley's hand under his chest, squeezing it tight. Crowley regained his senses, then slid out and rolled on his back next to Aziraphale, who leaned over and kissed him again. "You're my beautiful, perfect demon." He snuggled up to Crowley and nuzzled into his neck. Crowley kissed the top of his head affectionately. "Where'd you learn to do all that, Angel?" he asked incredulously. Aziraphale looked up at him with one eyebrow raised. "Where did you?" Touche. Shall we have another go? It might be fun. Perhaps I can cover myself in cake and you could lick it off. Oh, that does sound rather nice, darling. Crowley smirked. I love you, you ridiculous, beautiful angel. And I love you, you handsome, wily demon. Now, cover me in cake and do your worst. Aziraphale grinned and snapped his fingers. That was very nice. There are notes that I'm kind of halfway reading right now. The notes say, I just wanted to say a huge thank you to the wonderful Good Omens fandom. I've been a fan for the past 30 years, but only really in the online fandom as a separate entity to the Terry Pratchett fandom at least, since the TV show aired in 2019. I only started writing fics in October 2019, and I've enjoyed pretty much every moment of it. I wanted to send thanks to all you wonderful readers who leave sweet comments, as well as more fic ideas for me, and the Good Omens Facebook groups. I love the book and show so much, and if I haven't tired of them in the past 3 decades, here's hoping I won't tire of them in the next 3 either. I shall hopefully be clutching my much-read old copy, or one of the others, as I sit in a nursing home somewhere 30 years from now and boring the other residents with tales of my alternative scenarios. To the world. You know, I kind of want to be in that nursing home with you telling all of your smutty stories. Tell your smutty stories in the knitting circle. Oh, what did they do then? That would be amazing. And now that's like my goal too, is reading all of my smutty fan fiction to the little old ladies and little old men in the nursing home. Oh, he gagged on his cock so well. Do you like that, Angel? It's in my head now. Oh my god. I might have to do that. I might have to write something about that. Oh my god. Okay. So anyway, that was, I believe, yes, that one was Slithering Over by GayDemonicDisaster. And loved it. So, thank you very much for watching. Kirsty, I hope that you enjoyed my reading. And lots of alliteration in there, which I guess I can't complain about anymore, considering that one of my own had a ton of alliteration. But I'm still going to complain about it because it's funny now. So, thank you very much for watching, and I will see you next time.